Grab a cup of tea or listen as you go, ladies. This is your hour with Dr. Zoe, your life and relationship coach. With encouragement, on-point insight, inspiring guests, health tips, and advice, Dr. Zoe helps busy women keep their mind in the game by redefining your superwoman. You're listening to The Dr. Zoe Show.
I'm Dr. Zoe. If you're listening for the first time, I'm a licensed psychotherapist, a life and relationship coach, and a motivational speaker. And I can work with you virtually to help you get unstuck. I believe that the concept of Superwoman is a myth. Seriously, it's a myth. But I do believe that every woman has a superpower, and that superpower makes you unique. And my passion is to help you find it, embrace it, and share it with the world. You can connect with me by texting the word JOIN to 38470 or go to my website at drzoeshaw.com. So before we get started today, I'm going to give you my Superwoman win and my Superwoman fail for the week, and they're kind of the same thing. And our topic today, though, is facing your fears. So we are going to be talking all about facing your fears. I'm going to be talking all about facing your fears because it's another solo show. But my Superwoman win and my Superwoman fail. So my win is that I chucked my day. I canceled all my sessions except for one. And I was a later one. And I took my kiddos to the beach. We had such a great time. We went to the beach in Ventura. The day was perfect. The water was a little chilly, but we really kicked off our summer having a fun beach day. I've mentioned before, I've called myself a recovering workaholic in the past. And my sister corrected me and said, actually, you are a functioning workaholic. And that was more accurate. I am. I tend to really just fall on that side of working too much. I love my work and I get invested in it. I get lost in it. It drives me and I have to continually pull myself back. And it was funny because when I quit, and I think I've talked before, there've been a couple of times when I've quit work altogether and stayed home as a stay-at-home mom, and it just doesn't last very long for me. And so when I took time off, I remember talking to a mom and I said, I can't work because when I work, my 10 hours turns into 20 hours and my 20 hours turns into 40 hours and my 40 hours turns into 50 hours. And I have a hard time pulling myself back. And I guess what I decided to do at that point, my solution was I just can't work and have a family and be the mom that I want to be. But I am working on balancing it so that I can do both. And so my Superwoman win was that I chucked my day. I took my kids to the beach. We had a fabulous time and I felt really good. Now that's also my Superwoman fail. I talked last week about how Shonda Rhimes talked about when you are like killing it in one area, when you're a busy woman, a mama, you have a career, you're often failing in another area. So as much as that was a Superwoman win for me, it was kind of like a professional fail for me because I literally canceled clients who really needed to see me. And that's one of those balances where I have to go, okay, I've got to prioritize. And there's some days that I really need to say, you know what? I need to have a family day, or I need to focus on this child, or I need to focus on that. And so I did. I canceled a lot of clients today who wanted to see me, needed to see me. I did some texting back and forth with some of them to help them out. And I spent the day with my family. And so it was both a family win, a Superwoman win, and it was a professional fail, if you want to use that word, because I am cognizant that I have a commitment to my clients. I have a commitment to my work, and I do. I have a greater commitment to my family, though, and that really is about that balance. And it's why I say the term Superwoman, and it's funny because I'm thinking of changing the term because a lot of people have issue with the term Superwoman. For me, it's one of those, I talk about redefining your Superwoman because that term, like I said, I don't believe a Superwoman exists, but I do believe we are all super. And so I've got to figure out another way to portray that so that people don't hear that concept of Superwoman and think, well, that's not me, because guess what? It's not you, and it's not me, and it's not any woman in real life, in real reality that exists. So there you go. My Superwoman win, my Superwoman fail, they were the same thing, and that's part of life. And I am accepting that. So the show topic today is facing your fears. And I think this is such an important one because fear, I was just on a session with a client and talking about relationships, and fear really permeates all aspects of our lives if we let it. And there are so many things that we hold ourselves back from because we're scared. We hold ourselves back from relationships. We hold ourselves back in our business. We hold ourselves back in our education. We hold ourselves back in all aspects of our lives because we're scared. We're scared of failing. We're scared of succeeding. We're scared of what other people are going to say about us, what other people are going to think about us. We're scared of so much. So no one is without fear. And I'm going to start out by just saying I myself have a lot of very weird fears, and I'm a trained, licensed therapist. And yes, I have weird fears. So I'm going to be vulnerable and I'm going to share some of them with you. And then we can talk about how to not let your fears rule your life. So, okay, normal fears, I think everybody has. These are mine. One, that something will happen to my kids or my family. I think that for all mamas, it's a fear, and it's one of those kind of low grade underlying ones. And I felt that today at the beach. I'm at the beach. I have 4 kids plus my son's girlfriend to kind of keep my eye on. And I remember sitting at the beach and I was talking to another mom. I'm like, okay, this is stressful. I want to just relax. I want to just listen to the ocean. I want to kind of lay down, but I can't because I've got to focus on making sure I find all those 4 heads every minute or two. And that is based, of course, on a healthy fear because that fear helps us keep our kids safe. We watch out for them. But I think, it's one of those normal fears that mamas have, that something will happen to our kids or our family. Another fear that I have is that I'm going to fail. And that's been a fear, that's run the course of my life, whether it was in my athletics, whether it was in academics, even family life, as a wife, as a mother, as a professional. Yeah, that's definitely a fear that I'm going to fail. Another one is that he, she, or they won't like me. It's taken me years to get over this one, but you know what? I can say that I am pretty close to being over that one. That does not in any way rule my life anymore. And I am pretty okay with people not agreeing with my choices. And I'm learning every day to be more and more okay with the fact that people don't agree with my choices. And one of the reasons is because people can't be in my brain and people can't live my life 24/7. And so it's easy to look at somebody else's life and judge and think about what you think they should do or how you think they should respond. But unless you've walked in their steps and lived their life, you really can't. You really can't. Another normal fear that I think I have is that of getting old and being invisible. I think that for women, this is even harder for us. And that's a very real fear and one that we all have to kind of grapple with and accept, the fact that we're all going to get old. We're all getting old every day, and really just kind of sit with that one and grapple with it. But it is a very real fear, one that I myself have. Another one goes back to I'm going to fail, that I won't attain my dreams and my goals. That's a fear that I've probably had, like I said, from early, probably middle school or elementary school, one of those fears. And I think everybody who has dreams and goals that are really important to them, there's an underlying fear there. Another fear that I have that I think is a normal fear is that something will happen in my life, probably to my family or something, and I will be alone and poor for the rest of my life. Once again, one of those fears I think that keeps us working hard and doing things to protect our stuff and our family. And so I hesitate, honestly, to even speak those fears, not because I'm ashamed of them, although maybe, there's a thread of that too. Like I said, I'm always working on that he, she, they won't like me or they will judge me. But I hesitate to speak them because I don't want to give any energy to them. I only speak these here maybe so that someone else can relate, so that any of you women out there listening to me can relate and go, oh, okay, I'm not the only one that has those fears. These are background fears, though, that I do not give voice or energy to because they're useless and they can destroy me. And they're useless and they can destroy you. So that's why we're going to talk today about facing your fears. Now, I also have some very weird fears that maybe you can't relate to. I hope you can't relate to, but I'm going to go ahead and be super vulnerable and I'm going to share those too. So I think my weirdest fear is getting stuck in the steam sauna at the gym. I don't know why. I've Googled it a million times. Like, what's the rate of people dying in saunas? And it happens, but it's very, very rare. And I try to find scenarios of like, what do I do if I get stuck? I check the doors sometimes when I'm in there, and I don't know why. It's the same dumb door. And I check it when I go in just to make sure that there's not a latch. And if other people are in there with me, I sometimes wonder, how will they react if we all get stuck in here? And then I'll make a mental note of which one of us will die first based on how healthy or sturdy I think that they look. I know this is kind of crazy. Okay, then I start doing these like psychological, sociological studies. Like, I wonder if we'll turn on each other in an attempt to escape. And then I wonder what my body will look like when they find me dead in the sauna. So you might say, why in the world do you even go in the sauna? It's not like it's a life requirement to go in the sauna, right? Well, because when I'm not doing this crazy making, catastrophizing is what I call it, the sauna is actually a very relaxing place for me. And despite this fear, I still love going to saunas because I love the way saunas make me feel. So I love being in the sauna. And I also totally hate letting any kind of fear stop my life. And so I know I'm afraid of it. And in fact, if I'm afraid of things, I tend to run towards them because I do not want to be controlled by fear. So the crazy thing is, my place of solitude, my place of relaxation, the place that I meditate in is the sauna, the very place that I have this weird, terrifying fear. But I overcome it and I work through it every single day. And it is getting less, but I'm talking about it now because it's there. So my other fear is that I've been terrified of public speaking. Now, I don't think that's a weird fear. I think plenty of people have that one. I should have had that up on my normals. But here I am. And I also now get on stage as a motivational speaker because I believe I have something to say and I'm not going to let my fear of speaking get in the way of it. I even jumped out of a plane with my sister a few years ago for the same reason. I like to conquer fear. I don't want fear to conquer me. And I say this all the time to my daughter, and I love it when she looks at me and she's like, did I just conquer fear? I'm like, yes, you did. You conquer fear. Don't let fear conquer you. So I can't think of any other weird fears I have except, I do know one. When I wash my face in the bathroom, when I bend over the sink and I can't see, I always get paranoid that someone is in the bathroom and I end up having to open my eyes to check before the soap is washed off. So soap ends up getting in my eyes and it's all kind of ridiculous. So it's like, I know that opening my eyes, I'm like, don't open them because you're going to get soap in your eyes. But like, I have to because I have to see. It's totally weird. So I know the fear is not rational, but here's the reality. Fear is not rational. It isn't. And that's something that we have to recognize in our lives. Whatever fear you have, whether normal or crazy, weird like mine, fear is not rational. It's based in a part of our brain that is not a logical part. So I can't think of any other fears. I think I'm, pretty quote, normal. I hate that term. That's probably my fear surfacing that I just shared that and that some of you guys are going to think I'm a total weirdo and stop listening to my podcast, but I'm sharing it anyway because I refuse to let fear silence me. But there are bigger things in life than my little paranoias, and there are bigger fears that can really sometimes cripple us. And some of us suffer from true anxiety and others just suffer from paralysis of action because of our fear. And whether it's in our work, our business, our relationships, our life goals, fear can hold us back. So remember, fears are no good reason to not do anything. So let's talk about some techniques that you can use to overcome things. So what do you want to do that you're afraid of? Do you want to ask that person out on a date, but you fear rejection? Do you want to start your own business, but you're afraid of failure? Whatever it is that you want to do, but you're not doing because of fear, we've got to stop that because you are stopping your progress. Fear is false evidence appearing real. Remember, it's not rational, it's not real. So what can you do? So one of the things you can do is what we therapists call exposure. And exposure, you must do the thing that you think you cannot do. And that is what I explained already. That's the technique I use the most when it comes to my fears. I face them head on and I continue to expose myself to them until they're mentally conquered. I've done that with public speaking. I have for such a long time, probably even since college. I have made myself volunteer for opportunities to speak in public because I know how much it terrifies me. And even back, when I was young, I remember thinking, I'm going to need to do this one day. I need to be able to get a hold of this. And so I continue to put myself in situations where I need to do public speaking. So one of those is exposure. So exposure is a great technique when you need to work on dealing with your fear. But there are 3 other main techniques and other main ways of tackling your fear that I want to talk about today. The first one is name it. The second is visualize, and the third is take action. So the next time you find yourself procrastinating from doing something that you want or you need to do, ask yourself, what do I fear? Now remember, I named my fears earlier today, and I want you to name them, not because you're giving them power, but because you need to know what it is you are going to have power over. So in order to work through our fears, we first have to identify what Dr. Brené Brown calls our shame triggers. So what brings you into a shame spiral? Is it your appearance, your body image, your parenting, your work, your family members, your spouse, your partner? Is it media, social media? What is it? And we often feel shame when we fear how the outside world will perceive us. And so what sends us into that shame spiral is the high level of perfection and the unrealistic expectations that we place on ourselves, that we place on our children, that we place on our spouses, that we place really on everybody around us. And this is called incongruence. So first, name your fears. Do what I just said. I named them. I don't remember how many they were now, 6, 7. I wrote them down. What are my biggest fears? And if you are really looking at tackling, because mine were just general, but if you're looking at really tackling something specific in your life that you find yourself procrastinating, I want you to write down your biggest fears surrounding that. Write down your fears. And then what you need to do is to start visualizing. Visualizing what you want to happen. Because facing our fears is about shifting our focus towards seeking congruence. So incongruence is when our internal values, beliefs, intentions, and goals fail to match our external reality. So when you visualize, it's so important that your expectations are appropriate. So there's one thing about, okay, so, I'm going to reach for, the stars. I'm going to reach for the moon, whatever. It's so important to reach high, but your expectations for the steps taken to get there need to be realistic. So it can't be, I'm going to lose 10 pounds by tomorrow. Now, if you want to lose 10 pounds, that's awesome, but you have to be realistic about your expectations about how fast it's going to take you to lose those 10 pounds. Because what happens is stress, and fear is a type of stress. Stress is that tension point between reality and expectation. So if you can't get your expectations in line with what's realistic, you're going to always be fearful and you're going to always be stressed because there's a part of you that knows that that can't happen. So we need to visualize. So this is really making our internal life and our values and our goals mirror out with the external reality. Part of that is pushing through perfection. We got to let go of perfection and recognize that, you know what? If I can accomplish 10 of these things over the next week of this list, I will be so far ahead than if I paralyzed myself and did nothing. So when we're able to let go of perfection, and letting go of perfection is, it doesn't have to be perfect. You know what? I didn't have to have all the food and every single thing prepared for our beach trip today, which I did not because I didn't. because I was doing everything and I was, I had a million things to do and I wanted to go to the beach, but I didn't have a lot of time to get ready. I threw stuff together. And you know what? The reality is I could have said, you know what? Let me wait another week. Let me get everything in line. Let me make sure I have all the perfect picnic items. Let me make sure I have, every single thing in line to go to the beach. Or I could just say, you know what? It's good enough. Let's just go. Because when you wait for perfection, sometimes it never occurs. Visualization is a powerful tool to help you face and overcome your fears. And you can train your brain by mentally rehearsing. And brain studies show that the thoughts produce the same mental instructions as actions. And it's a technique that's widely used by athletes, but it's a technique that actually works. Visualization is a great way to communicate to your subconscious mind. So when I'm getting ready to get on stage, and I've done this a number of times, when I'm getting ready to get in a race, when I'm getting ready to do something that scares me, I visualize it going exactly as I plan. And I walk into that pumping confidence. And I say pumping confidence because I don't always feel 100% confident, but I pump the confidence in myself with my words. I visualize that I'm going to kill it. I visualize that the audience is going to love what I have to say. And I pump that confidence through my visualization and I make it happen. When you mentally rehearse performing with calm, confidence, courage, and competence, your visual image will, with practice, be received by your subconscious mind as the new reality, and it will eventually be expressed outwardly in your life. It works. I'm telling you, it works. When you're fearing something, you're already visualizing it. But what you're doing is you're visualizing the thing that you don't want, and you're focusing on the thing that you don't want. And then what happens? You bring it into your life. And I have to say, I practice this mindfulness of bringing things into my life on a regular basis. And one of the ways that I do this, and it's probably, I have to say, it's not the best way, but for some reason, there's something inside of me that refuses to see people as predominantly bad. I want to see people as predominantly wanting to do good. I really feel that most people do. And I am a little lax at locking my doors. I'm a little lax at, leaving stuff or paying attention to my purse and things like that. And my husband gets on me about it. My mother-in-law gets on me about it. Pretty much everybody gets on me about it. But here's the interesting thing. I left my wallet this morning at Smart and Final in the shopping cart for about 3 hours before I figured out it was gone. Went back, it was still there. I have over and over and over again, I have instances of things like that happening in my life because I truly put that energy out that people are predominantly good and they're going to want to do good things. So if I leave my purse there, I leave my wallet there, or I don't lock my door, people aren't out there waiting to take advantage of me. Now, I know in some ways that might sound Pollyanna, and I get it. And I do, obviously I do try to protect myself for the most part, but I'm really cognizant of what energy I put out and what I expect of people. And I do believe that people in general really do rise to your expectations, even people you don't know. Now, that's an interesting concept there, isn't it? So practice visualizing the opposite of your fear. Practice visualizing the best outcome. If you want to overcome a fear, it's good to regularly imagine yourself as a success. Your self-image will be changed in a positive direction when you feed your mind the mental pictures of yourself performing at your best with ease. So here are some steps to visualizing. Find a quiet place, like the sauna, free from distractions and interruptions. Sit or lie in a comfortable position. And you want to make sure you're not distracted by your body. You don't want to be in an uncomfortable position if something hurts. You might want to play soft music, but I do not like to play music at all when I'm meditating or when I'm focusing on something because I feel like it distracts me. Whatever you can do to make it relaxing for you. So I want you to spend 10 or 15 minutes before bed is a great time or right when you wake up in the morning, practicing visualization, practicing closing your eyes, breathing slowly and steadily, and imagining your success. Now, I want you to imagine your specific success. I don't want you to just imagine I'm just this great success. I want you to pick one thing to focus on each time that you are visualizing your success and focus on that one thing. If it's, making that perfect cake, if it's killing it in that presentation at work, if it's having that conversation with your daughter or your son that you really want to have, or your spouse or your partner, whatever it is, I want you to be very specific and I want you to visualize being a success in that thing. And the next thing is to take action. So you've named that darn fear. You've put words on it. You've specified exactly what it is that you're scared of and fearful of, why you're procrastinating that thing. You're visualizing something different with realistic expectations. And when it comes to those realistic expectations, it's realistic expectations of maybe how it will start out. That in the beginning, maybe it'll be a little fumbly, but realistic expectations. And the last thing you need to do is feel the darn fear and do it anyway. You take action. And you take action not when you're 100% confident. You take action when you're still feeling some of those little bubbles or tingles or whatever those nerves are, the butterflies. You take action anyway. And you know that in doing it, you are conquering that fear. And when you make yourself do this day after day after day, it gets easy. And you actually start to enjoy the challenge. I now enjoy the challenge. When I get asked to speak in public, I'm like, yes, another challenge that I have, another opportunity that I have to tackle this darn thing. And I do it. And that's what I want for you too. Name it, visualize it with realistic expectations, and take action and fly. Next up, health tip. Our minds and bodies are intimately connected, and that is why I have a health tip segment. So my health tip today is really kind of a question, kind of just a thinking out loud about our quantified self. So we are quantifying ourselves and tracking and competing all the time now with technology. So what I'm talking about, of course, is our smart devices, but not even like our smartwatches or our Apple Watch or our Fitbits. I'm really talking about all ways that we quantify ourselves. And there are a million different apps that can track everything in the world. If I think of things that I track right now, I track my water intake with a water app. I don't even remember the name of the app. I track my sleep with a sleep app on my Apple Watch. I track my periods with a period tracker app. Of course, with my calendar, I track various appointments. I track my workouts with a workout tracker app. I track my distance. I track all of that kind of stuff. I track my weight with another app, and I track my blood pressure with another app. So I guess the question today, and it's not really a question, but it's in the health tip segment because it's all about our health. I think that the quantified self is really important. And there's even a website now called, I think it's the quantifiedself.com. And it talks all about the whole movement of quantifying things. And I think that there's so much benefit. And so what I can say is that when I track my sleep, I get better sleep. When I track my water, I drink more. When I track my weight is more of the ideal weight that I'm looking for. When I track my blood pressure, I'm thinking of ways to lower it. If I feel like it's getting a little bit high, I'm kind of obsessed about my blood pressure. My aunt told me that your blood pressure, 120 over 80, we know is actually high. You want to keep your blood pressure below 120 over 80. So I'm always making sure that it's, below that. And I have a history of heart disease in my family, so good reason for that. But anyway, my point was tracking. So if we look long term, some people have talked about tracking as being something that could be detrimental to us. And, I don't know about that because anything you can just say it's going to be detrimental. People have said, oh, you know what? Eventually, insurance companies are going to require you to give them your tracking data before they will insure you, or they'll insure you at different rates based on your tracking data. But, that's kind of a whatever. I mean, people can catastrophize anything. But I think that tracking is good, but you can overdo it. So I don't know what I just listed, 5, 6 things that I track. I think you should really only track things that you feel like you're struggling in. So pick, I have 5 to 6. I would say definitely no more than 5 to 6. And I'm not tracking all of those all the time. So I would really say pick a couple that you really feel like you need to get some help in and figure out ways to track those things. And when you feel like you've got a good balance on it, let it go. I mean, you can continue to do it, but you don't necessarily need to track it. So I guess that's my help tip for today. Tracking is great. Try it. If there's certain things that you really feel like you need to track, like sleep, water, ovulation, whatever. I mean, there's so many things you could track in the world. Go for it. Track it. And then let it go when you feel like you've gotten a good handle on it. So next up is Real Talk. This is Real Talk, where I answer questions from my listeners and I share my own musings and encouragement. Please reach out if you have some questions that you'd like me to address on the show. All questions are anonymous. I take your confidentiality seriously as if you were my own client. You can email me questions to Zoe at drzoeshaw.com or connect with me on any of my social medias. And all of my Real Talk is just advice. It is not to be misconstrued as therapy. So a question that I had, I think this is such a good one. Hi, Dr. Zoe. I had a question about fostering self-esteem in boys. I know there's a lot of stuff out there about girls, but I have 2 boys and I see signs of low self-esteem. And what can I do to foster healthy self-esteem in my boys? So I'm actually really glad that you asked this question because I have 2 boys. And I've definitely noticed that there is a big societal push to boost our little girls and adolescents girls' self-esteem, which I think is great because do they need it to be protected? Absolutely. Do they need self-esteem bolstered? Without a doubt. Without a doubt, our kiddos, boys, girls across the board are suffering from low self-esteem. But I think that there's also this notion, even though, we know better, there's still this notion that boys are tough and that things don't bother them and that we don't need to focus on self-esteem for boys as much. And I can tell you this really bothers me, especially because I know that my boys have feelings just like little girls. And it's always kind of bothered me that people don't seem to recognize that, especially like when my boys started developing out of the little boy stage, I noticed that people are just kind of a little more abrupt and more rough with them because they have this concept that, oh, you're a boy, you can handle it, or you got to toughen them up. And I think even teenage girls have this feeling that boys don't have feelings, and they have no idea how much courage has to be mustered up to ask a girl out, and the crushing pain that can be experienced when someone rebuffs you in a mean way. And, to just say, oh, boys need to toughen up. I call it hogwash. And I've even noticed even some of my friends, my female friends who don't have boys or whose boys are really super young, tend to kind of treat, older boys or men the same way. Like you feel like you can joke with them and say mean things to them and they're not going to have that same effect. Things that you would never say to a little girl or a teenage girl, people feel like it's okay to say to boys, even to comment on things like their body, like if they've gained weight, lost weight, muscles they have or don't have. But anyway, I'm sorry, I've kind of gotten off topic. You were talking about younger boys, I think. I have older boys. So what can you do for your younger boys who will grow into adolescence to help foster self-esteem? So this might seem like it has nothing to do with confidence and self-esteem, but research has actually linked the two. Volunteering as a family and making helping and volunteering a regular family event actually helps to boost your self-esteem. It's been psychologically proven. Helping others boost your self-esteem. There's a myriad of reasons why it does. I think one is that it helps us kind of get out of ourselves and we're not focused inward, we're focused outward, and we don't have that energy towards even feeling bad about ourselves. I think another aspect of it is that when we are helping other people, generally those people are in some way less fortunate than we are. And so in helping them, we're able to recognize some of our strengths or even just recognize some of the blessings that we have. And it increases our confidence. And the other is that just helping, period, just knowing that we have an effect and that we can positively impact the world creates positive self-esteem. So that's one pretty easy one. Volunteer in your community and get your kids involved, and that increases self-esteem. The next is to listen and build their boys' emotional vocabulary. So naturally, because their brains are bathed in that testosterone we talked about in our last episode with Conjit Farrell, they do tend to lack an emotional vocabulary as compared to girls. And I noticed this already. It's so much easier to talk about emotional things and feelings, even with my 5-year-old daughter, because she feels them and she gets them and she has that connection to be able to use language to express them to me. Whereas even my boys, when they were 5 and 6, you ask them, they're like, I don't know. What you can do though is you can help build your son's emotional vocabulary by listening intently and helping them with words express their feelings. So you don't want to say you are feeling this, but you can say, it seems like you're feeling this, or I wonder if you're feeling this. And even talking about how other people are feeling helps them cue in on other people's feelings, which will in turn help them cue in on their own. So providing your sons with feeling words and vocabulary help them to be able to express themselves, which can increase their self-esteem. The next is spending quality time doing what they like to do. So one of the greatest ideas that a boy can grasp is the knowledge that the people who are closest to him, his mom and his dad, actually care about who he is as a person. And so time spent one-on-one with your boy can do wonders with his emotional development. And I think for women, it might be a little bit harder because we might not enjoy or even connect with boy stuff as easily as we do with girl stuff. Because with girl stuff, we remember we were a little girl. It kind of triggers all of our fun girl stuff, our memories from childhood when we're doing things with our daughters. That might not really be that case when we're doing things with our sons. But it's so important still to focus on what do they like. I'm going to date myself because back then it was my son likes Pokemon. Actually, I'm not really dating myself because people are still doing Pokemon out there. I'll play a Pokemon game with you. What do you like? What's important to you? Talk to them about things that are important to them, even if you don't really understand them. And I talked before about 15 focused minutes a day per kid, which if you have a lot, it can kind of start to add up. But you've got 2 boys. So make sure that you're spending just 15 minutes a day focused on that son and what he or she likes and letting them know that you're interested. Another one is give that boy a job. He should have specific chores that allow him to see that he's a working part of the system, which is your family. It gives him a sense of belonging, and also it lets him know that you have enough confidence in him and his abilities because you're giving him a job. So give your son, no matter how old he is, a job. And the next is praise. Of course we all praise our kids, but sometimes we don't recognize that we might criticize a little more than we praise. So we want to make sure that our praise bucket is fuller than our criticism bucket. When you're constantly criticizing a child, you're reinforcing what the boy's done wrong, and it only helps to diminish their self-esteem. Everybody needs to be praised, and sincere praise can do more to lift spirits and give them the will to succeed than nearly any other support can do. So just pay attention. Maybe if you even need to log it, how many times did I praise him today? How many times did I criticize him today? And criticism, I'm not talking about putting your kid down. I'm talking about the little things we do, like correcting behavior and little things for them that can feel like criticism. The next is identify your son's strengths. A boy who's suffering from low self-esteem generally doesn't value his worth in society compared to others that he knows. So it's critical that parents and caregivers point out the talents or abilities that your boy has. Start teaching him that he's unique. Just like I speak to you women, you are unique. All of us are unique, and we all have special talents and abilities. Start identifying those for your son so that he can start to see them and he can understand what he has to offer to the world. So I hope that those little tips are helpful. Try to start incorporating them as much as you can into your daily life and talk to him and see what you see in terms of his behavior and see if there's any improvement. Reach out to me if you have any questions about this. So thank you for tuning in to the Dr. Zoe Show. New shows go up on Tuesdays. Subscribe so you don't miss a show. And if you're interested in coaching or therapy, or you just want to get a little more help, go to my website at drzoeshaw.com or any of my social medias at the handle Dr. Zoe Shaw. Join my free newsletter by texting the word join to 38470. And I look forward to speaking with you amazing women over social media throughout the week. Have a super week.
You've been listening to The Dr. Zoe Show, redefining your Superwoman, with your host, Dr. Zoe Shaw. Don't forget to sign up for her monthly newsletters to get encouragement, tips, and skills for keeping your mind in the Superwoman game. Connect with her now at www.drzoeshaw.com. Tell your friends and subscribe to her podcast on iTunes. Join us next time for another edition of The Dr. Zoe Show.